As the sun slowly dipped below the horizon, a soft breeze danced through the trees. The world was quiet, peaceful, and full of calm, golden light. In a quiet meadow, where wildflowers gently swayed in the wind, lived a small and gentle butterfly named Luma. Her wings were a blend of soft white and gentle blue, and they sparkled lightly when the sunlight touched them. Luma wasn't like the other butterflies. While others flew fast and high, Luma always moved slowly and gently. She loved to fly low over flowers, brushing her wings lightly against the petals. Every evening, just before night arrived, she would take a peaceful flight across the meadow. She called it her evening flight, and it was her favorite part of the day. This evening was special. The sky was filled with colors, soft orange, pink, and purple. The clouds looked like cotton candy, and the air felt calm and cool. Luma stretched her wings and took off from her favorite flower, a yellow daisy near a small pond. As she flew slowly through the meadow, she noticed the small changes that came with evening. The crickets began to sing their soft songs, and the fireflies slowly started to appear. Their tiny lights twinkled like stars on the ground. Luma felt a sense of peace as she passed by them. She flew over the tall grass, gently swaying in the breeze. The air carried the smell of the earth, flowers, and fresh water. Luma took a deep breath and let the calmness fill her tiny body. Her flight was not just a habit, it was her way of saying goodbye to the day and preparing for the night. As she moved from flower to flower, she saw a small ladybug struggling to climb up a blade of grass. Luma fluttered down gently and said, "Do you need help?" The ladybug looked up, smiled, and replied, "It's just a little slippery. The dew is starting to fall." Luma smiled kindly. "Let me stay here with you until you're safe." The ladybug nodded, and Luma waited as the ladybug slowly reached the top. "Thank you," said the ladybug. "You are kind." "You're welcome," Luma whispered and continued her flight. Not far away, a small rabbit sat under a bush, looking up at the sky. He was watching the stars appear. Luma flew down and landed gently on a leaf nearby. "The stars are late today," the rabbit said. "They're just shy tonight," Luma answered softly, "but they will come." The rabbit smiled. "I like watching them. They make me feel safe." "Me too," Luma replied, and with that, she flew up again, letting the breeze carry her farther. As she moved toward the forest edge, Luma met a group of small birds getting ready to sleep in their nest. The mother bird was tucking her chicks under her wings. Luma hovered nearby for a moment. "Good night, little ones," she whispered. The baby birds chirped softly, and Luma felt warmth in her heart. She loved seeing others safe and happy. She continued her peaceful journey. Each part of the meadow was now changing. The warm colors of sunset had faded into deep purples and soft blues. The stars slowly filled the sky, and the sounds of day had been replaced by the quiet sounds of night. Luma reached the edge of a quiet stream. The water sparkled under the night sky, and she stopped for a moment to rest on a smooth stone. She looked up and smiled. "This is my favorite time," she said to herself, "when the world slows down and everything feels soft." Suddenly, a soft voice called from a flower nearby. "Luma!" It was an old friend, a moth named Elric. He had wings of gray and silver and only flew at night. "You're still flying?" he asked. "I always take my evening flight," she said kindly. Elric nodded. "I wait for the night, but you dance between day and night. That is beautiful." They sat quietly together for a while, watching the stars and the gentle movement of the water. After some time, Elric said goodnight and flew into the forest. Luma stretched her wings once more. She had one last stop. There was an old tree at the center of the meadow. It was wide and tall, and its roots were deep in the ground. It was where many creatures came to rest. Luma gently flew around it, then landed on a branch and looked out at the world. From here, she could see everything. The quiet fields, the shining fireflies, the soft stars above, and the peaceful creatures settling in for the night. Luma closed her eyes for a moment. She remembered the day, the buzzing bees, the laughing breeze, the warmth of the sun. But the night had its own beauty. It was gentle, just like her. And so she whispered to the wind, "Good night, meadow. I'll see you when the light returns." As she curled her wings and rested on the tree branch, the world slowly fell into a deep, quiet sleep. And in that sleep, Luma's soft flight remained like a memory in the air, a reminder that even the quietest journeys can touch the hearts of many. In the heart of a quiet valley where the sky always looked wide and blue, there was a little garden full of life. This garden was not very big, but it held colors more beautiful than a painting. Flowers of every shape and shade filled the space: roses, daisies, sunflowers, tulips, lilies, and many more. The wind carried the sweet smell of the petals and leaves, wrapping everything in a soft, calming scent. Every day, birds sang happy songs while bees buzzed gently from one bloom to another. The garden was peaceful. It felt like time moved slowly there, as if the world had decided to stop and just breathe. Trees stood tall around the flowers, giving shade and shelter to small creatures. In this garden lived a little butterfly named Mira. She was not an ordinary butterfly. Her wings were soft orange with tiny white dots that sparkled in the sunlight. Mira loved this garden. It was her home, her playground, and her favorite place to rest. Mira wasn't in a hurry like the other butterflies. She liked to move slowly, enjoying each flower, each color, and each breeze. Every morning, she would visit all the blossoms, gently landing on one petal, then flying to another. But what she loved most was her quiet afternoon nap in the middle of the garden, surrounded by the gentle rhythm of life. One warm afternoon, the sun stood high above the sky, shining golden light across the land. Birds were still singing, though their voices had become softer. Bees had started to slow down, and even the leaves on the trees looked like they were getting sleepy. Mira had just finished sipping nectar from a soft pink rose. Her little legs felt tired, and her wings were warm from the sunshine. She fluttered slowly to the center of the garden where a bright marigold stood tall and proud. "This looks perfect," she whispered to herself. She gently landed on one of its petals and took a deep breath. The petal was soft, warm, and smelled like morning light. Mira folded her wings and let herself relax. Her antennae stopped moving, her tiny body rested, and soon she began to nap. As she slept, the garden stayed calm. A gentle breeze moved, the flowers slowly, like a lullaby. The bees flew quietly now, careful not to wake her. Even the clouds above seemed to float more slowly than before. A small caterpillar crawling on a nearby leaf noticed her. "Shh," he said to a passing ant, "the butterfly is sleeping." The ant nodded and moved on silently. Nearby, a group of dragonflies played over a little pond, but they too kept their buzzing low. Everyone in the garden respected Mira's nap. It had become a quiet ritual, a moment of stillness that made the garden feel like a dream. As Mira rested, she began to dream. In her dream, she flew above tall hills, over lakes that looked like mirrors, and past trees that reached for the clouds. She felt light, like the wind itself. Flowers in her dream were taller than trees, and their scent filled the sky. There was no rush, no noise, just peace. In her dream, she met a group of glowing butterflies that danced in circles. They laughed and invited her to join them. As they danced, soft music filled the air, though there were no instruments. It came from the earth, the sky, and the leaves. Mira smiled in her sleep. Her legs twitched a little and her wings fluttered gently as if she was flying in her dream. Back in the garden, the sun had begun to lower, changing the color of the sky from bright blue to a gentle orange. The flowers caught the warm colors and the garden glowed. Birds started singing evening songs, soft and melodic. A bluebird, perched on a tree branch, looked down at Mira and whispered, "She's still sleeping." The marigold, proud to be Mira's chosen resting place, stood extra still to make sure her nap wasn't disturbed. A squirrel that had been playing nearby stopped and tiptoed around the flower. Even the wind had softened its movement. Finally, after some time, Mira began to stir. Her wings stretched slightly. Her tiny eyes blinked open, and she slowly stood, up on the petal. The garden was bathed in golden light. Everything looked soft and glowing. Mira smiled. That was the most peaceful nap, she whispered to herself. She fluttered her wings a little, still sleepy, and looked around. The garden was quiet but not empty. It was full of calm energy, like everyone had taken a little rest with her. Mira flew gently from the marigold and made her way toward the pond. She took a small sip of water from a leaf that had collected dew. Then she flew up a little higher, looking down at the garden she loved so much. Every petal, every leaf, every stone looked more beautiful now. Perhaps it was the nap, or the way the light had changed, or maybe just the feeling of being home. But everything seemed to shine. She floated over the garden once more, greeting the creatures that had waited silently while she slept. "Thank you," she said to the marigold. "Thank you," she said to the wind, the bee, the bird, the flower, and even the squirrel. Each one smiled in their own way. Mira took her time to visit a few more flowers, brushing her wings softly against their petals, as if to say hello after her rest. Now the sun was almost gone, and the sky turned a soft purple with hints of gold. Stars started to appear, tiny and far away. Fireflies danced in the tall grass, and the crickets began their evening song. Mira flew up to a tall tree and rested on a leaf that looked out across the garden. She sat quietly, watching as the day turned into night. She thought about how lucky she was to live in a place full of beauty, calm, and care. A place where even a butterfly could take a peaceful nap and wake up to find the world waiting patiently for her. And in that moment, as stars twinkled above and the garden whispered its soft music, Mira knew one thing for sure. Sometimes, even the smallest nap in the quietest corner can make the heart feel full. In a faraway valley, surrounded by tall trees and open skies, there was a quiet garden where not many people went. The air there was always gentle, filled with soft sunlight and the smell of fresh blossoms. The wind whispered through the leaves, birds chirped sweet songs, and the grass swayed like waves in the sea. Living in this peaceful place was a small butterfly named Luma. She had delicate wings painted with soft shades of blue and white, like the early morning sky. Luma was not like the other butterflies. While most loved the excitement of fluttering in crowds and chasing the breeze, Luma enjoyed calm and stillness more than anything else. From a young age, she discovered that silence made her feel happy. It helped her think clearly, made her heart feel light, and gave her the peace she needed. She loved flying alone through the quiet spaces of the garden, where nothing disturbed her soft thoughts. While other butterflies played in the buzzing fields, Luma would visit places where sounds faded. The back of the garden behind the tall ferns, under wide leaves that caught the wind like umbrellas, and near the still waters of the little pond that never made a ripple. She would sit there for hours, watching sunlight play on the petals of the flowers, feeling the breeze touch her wings ever so gently. It was in those moments, surrounded by calm, that she felt the most alive. One day, after a gentle morning, rain, Luma flew out of her resting spot beneath a big daisy. The garden smelled fresh, and tiny drops of water glistened on every flower. The sun peeked through the clouds, making the world shine. But as she flew through her favorite part of the garden, she noticed something was different. There were more birds today. They sang loudly and flapped their wings in excitement. Bees buzzed with energy, dancing from flower to flower. Even the frogs near the pond croaked more than usual. It wasn't a bad sound, just too much at once. Luma stopped midair. Her tiny wings hovered above a yellow bloom, and she listened. Everything felt too noisy. Her heart began to beat faster, not in fear, but in discomfort. She wasn't used to so much sound. It was hard for her to find the peaceful silence she loved. Looking around, she saw butterflies dancing with joy, bees collecting nectar quickly, and birds flying in playful circles. Everyone seemed happy, but Luma felt out of place. She missed the calm moments when everything was still. She flew deeper into the garden, searching for her quiet corner. She passed by waving grasses and crossed under a hanging vine. Finally, she reached her secret spot, a place where a tall tree leaned over a little stone bench, surrounded by lavender and forget-me-nots. Luma sat down on a soft leaf and closed her wings. Here, the noise faded. The birds were farther away and the bees didn't come this deep. Only the leaves whispered gently, and the soft gurgle of a small stream could be heard nearby. She took a deep breath and let it out slowly. This was the silence she loved. In this silence, Luma could feel the world in a special way. She could sense the rhythm of the wind, the softness of the flowers, and the calm heartbeat of the earth. As the day passed, Luma stayed in her quiet place. A curious ladybug came by and sat on the same leaf. "Why are you sitting here all alone?" the ladybug asked kindly. "I love the quiet," Luma replied softly. "It helps me feel peaceful. The noise outside makes my heart feel too full." The ladybug nodded. "I understand. Some enjoy sounds, while others enjoy silence. It's okay to be different." Luma smiled. That made her feel seen and understood. Not everyone knew how much silence meant to her. In the afternoon, the garden started to calm down. The sun began to lower in the sky, and the birds flew back to their nests. The bees became slower, and even the frogs grew quiet. The sounds that once filled the air gently faded into soft hums. Luma opened her wings and flew out of her secret corner. The garden looked different now. Everything had slowed down. She passed by sleepy flowers, paused near the still pond, and watched as the light turned golden. She found a flower with soft, round petals and rested on it. As the wind brushed gently against her, she closed her eyes and thought about the day. She realized that the garden wasn't always quiet, but there were always pockets of silence if she looked for them. And even when the world got noisy, she could find peace inside her own heart. She didn't need to run away from sound, just find balance. From that day on, Luma still searched for her quiet places, but she also learned to enjoy the quiet moments that could exist even in the middle of sound. She watched others play, listened to birds sing, and even joined a gentle dance with the other butterflies from time to time. When the garden was loud, she remembered her quiet spots. When things got too busy, she knew how to return to calm. She didn't have to change who she was, just find comfort in the stillness she loved. And at night, when the stars lit the sky and the garden slowed to a gentle hush, Luma would sit on her favorite flower, fold her wings, and rest in the silence she cherished so deeply. Because for Luma, silence was not empty. It was full of beauty. Far beyond the tall hills and whispering woods, there was a peaceful meadow hidden from the noisy world. This meadow was full of soft grass, colorful flowers, and a quiet stream that gently flowed through the land. It was a place where the sky felt close and the stars could be seen clearly each night. This was not just any meadow. It was special, calm, quiet, and magical in its own simple way. The air always smelled fresh, the breeze always felt gentle, and the light of the stars made everything glow softly after sunset. In this peaceful meadow lived a small butterfly named Mira. She had wings painted with soft colors, like cream, sky blue, and light lavender. Her wings shimmered whenever they caught the moonlight, making her look like a flying dream. Mira wasn't like the other butterflies who flew in groups during the day. She preferred to rest when the sun was up and wait until the world became quiet. She came alive in the evening when the sky turned deep blue and stars started to peek through the sky. When the moon slowly rose above the meadow, Mira would flutter her wings and begin her night flight. The meadow would glow under the moon's silver light, and the flowers would slightly close their petals to sleep. But Mira was just waking up. Each night she flew gently above the soft grass. Her wings never made a sound. She moved like a whisper, slow and smooth, as if floating through a dream. She loved the silence of the night. There were no loud birds, no buzzing bees, just peace. As she flew, she would greet sleepy flowers with a soft touch. She would land gently on their petals, feel their coolness, and listen to the stillness around her. Her favorite flowers were the star-shaped ones that only opened at night. They looked like tiny stars on the ground, shining quietly just for her. Sometimes she would fly to the edge of the meadow, where a calm stream ran beneath small stones and moss. There, fireflies would dance in the air like glowing dots. Mira would follow them, weaving between their lights, feeling like she was part of the stars above. Though Mira loved her quiet world, sometimes she felt a little lonely. The meadow was beautiful, but the night was empty of voices. She didn't mind being alone, but she wondered what it would be like to share the quiet with someone who also understood the beauty of silence. One night, as she rested on a soft petal, she saw a light moving slowly through the grass. It wasn't a firefly. It was larger and brighter. Curious, Mira flew toward it. As she got closer, she saw a small creature walking slowly. It was a tiny caterpillar glowing softly from its back. It looked tired, but not afraid. "Hello," Mira said gently. The caterpillar looked up. "Oh, I didn't expect anyone to be awake. I fly at night." Mira smiled. "The meadow is most beautiful under the stars." "I agree," said the caterpillar. "I've been walking for a long time, looking for a quiet place to rest." Mira's wings fluttered softly. "Come with me. I know the quietest spots in the meadow." Together, they moved through the night. Mira flew above, and the caterpillar followed slowly below. She showed him the gentle stream, the sleeping flowers, and the tall grasses that swayed like lullabies. They didn't talk much, but they didn't need to. The silence between them felt calm, not empty. They both enjoyed the soft sounds of nature, the wind brushing the grass, the gentle flow of water, and the distant call of an owl. Eventually, they reached a small hill in the meadow. It was covered with soft moss, and the moonlight made it look like silver velvet. The caterpillar curled into the moss, closed its eyes, and whispered, "Thank you." Mira smiled and sat nearby. She looked up at the sky. The stars were brighter than usual, and the moon looked full and kind. Night after night, the two met at the same spot. Mira would fly around the meadow, and the caterpillar would watch from his cozy bed of moss. Sometimes they talked softly, but mostly they just shared the silence. One evening, as Mira flew towards their meeting place, she noticed something new. The moss was still there, but the caterpillar was gone. In his place was a small, shining cocoon. Mira hovered close. It was still and glowing under the moonlight. She smiled. She knew her friend was becoming something new. For many nights, Mira visited the cocoon. She would fly gentle circles around it, whisper stories of her nighttime journeys, and rest quietly nearby. The stars above seemed to listen too, glowing a little brighter each night. Then, one magical night, just as the first stars began to show, the cocoon moved. Mira sat still. The cocoon opened slowly, and from it came a new butterfly. His wings were dark blue with silver lines, sparkling like the night sky. He blinked a few times, then looked at Mira. "It's you," he said softly. "Yes," she whispered, her wings fluttering with joy. Welcome to the sky. The two butterflies flew together for the first time. They glided over the meadow, their wings moving in quiet harmony. The flowers below swayed gently, and the stars above twinkled like tiny lanterns. From that day, Mira was no longer alone. Every night, she and her friend soared together through the moonlight meadow, chasing dreams and resting in peaceful silence. They danced with the fireflies, touched the petals of sleepy flowers, and found comfort in the soft hush of the world at night. They didn't need loud voices or busy places. They had the quiet, the stars, and each other. And every night, as the world rested below and the moon watched from above, two gentle butterflies filled the meadow with their silent dreams. Because in that special place, in the quiet of night, even the smallest wings could carry the softest dreams. In a quiet corner of the world, far from loud cities and busy places, there was a peaceful meadow surrounded by soft hills and old trees. Birds sang gently during the day, and the wind danced slowly through the tall grass. This was a place where time felt slower, and the air always smelled fresh and kind. In this meadow lived a little butterfly named Luma. She was small, with pale golden wings that glowed softly when touched by sunlight. Her patterns looked like tiny brushstrokes painted by nature. Luma had traveled a long distance, flying over mountains, lakes, and fields. Her wings had grown tired, and her heart longed for rest. Luma wasn't running from anything. She wasn't chasing anyone either. She was simply searching for peace, for quiet, for a place to land and breathe. The days had been long and full of wind. Clouds sometimes covered the sky, and rain would fall without warning. Still, she kept flying, hoping to find somewhere she could rest her wings and feel safe. One evening, as the sun gently disappeared behind the hills, she spotted the meadow. It looked calm and inviting. The grass swayed like waves in slow motion. Wildflowers of every color stretched out like a soft carpet. The sky turned a light shade of orange and pink, and the first stars began to shine. Luma floated down slowly. Her wings barely moved as she drifted toward a soft, white flower. She landed gently on a petal, her legs trembling from the long flight. The flower rocked softly under her weight, like a cradle. Luma closed her eyes. She didn't sleep right away. Instead, she listened. The meadow whispered with quiet sounds, the rustling of grass, the hum of distant crickets, the call of a sleepy bird in the trees. All of it felt like a soft lullaby. That night, Luma slept deeply for the first time in many days. The stars above twinkled gently, as if watching over her. The moonlight covered her in silver, wrapping her in comfort and warmth. When morning came, she slowly woke up. Her wings still felt weak, but her heart was lighter. She stayed still, letting the sun warm her body. A small breeze brushed past her wings. It didn't rush her. It simply reminded her that the world was still turning, gently and patiently. Over the next few days, Luma stayed in the meadow. She explored only a little at first. She would flutter to one flower, then to another. She watched ladybugs climb leaves and ants carry food to their tiny homes. Everything moved slowly, without hurry. She found a small patch of blue flowers that opened only when the sun was low. Their scent was soft and sweet, and their petals felt cool to her touch. That became her favorite place to rest. Luma didn't talk much with other insects. She didn't feel lonely, just quiet. And the meadow understood her silence. It didn't ask her questions. It gave her space. One afternoon, while resting on a sunflower, she noticed a small bee struggling to carry pollen back to its hive. It looked exhausted. Luma watched quietly, then fluttered down beside it. "Are you okay?" she asked softly. The bee looked up, surprised. "I'm just tired. I've been working since morning." Luma nodded. "You should rest for a while." The bee sighed. "I want to, but there's always more to do. Luma looked around at the calm meadow. Sometimes, resting is what helps you do more later. The bee thought about that. Maybe you're right, and it lay down beside her on the sunflower, letting the warm light cover them both. From that day on, more tired creatures began to visit the meadow. A grasshopper with a broken leg, a ladybug who had lost her way, even an old dragonfly who no longer flew as fast as before. Luma didn't lead them or tell them what to do. She simply stayed with them. Her stillness became a kind of welcome. One evening, Luma sat beside a quiet stream at the edge of the meadow. The water moved slowly over smooth stones. The sky reflected in its surface like a painting. Fireflies began to glow in the air above the water, dancing in silence. She felt her wings getting stronger again. The tiredness was fading. But she didn't rush to leave. Something had changed in her heart. She had found what she didn't know she was looking for. Not just a place to rest, but a space where stillness had meaning, where doing nothing was okay, where being quiet was enough. Later that night, as she rested on her favorite flower, a soft voice broke the silence. "You brought us peace," the voice said. It was the old dragonfly, his wings now slower but steady. "We were always here, but we didn't know how to stop. You showed us how." Luma smiled gently. "I only needed quiet. I didn't know. It was something I could give." And that's when she understood. Sometimes, by simply being gentle, you help others find their peace too. Seasons passed. The meadow changed color, from green to gold to white and back again. But the quiet never left. Luma stayed for as long as her wings allowed, and when she felt her time was coming to an end, she didn't fear it. She rested on her favorite petal one final time and looked at the stars. The meadow still whispered its lullabies, and the flowers swayed in the wind. She had come tired, searching for rest, and she had given the same gift to others without even trying. Even after Luma was gone, butterflies continued to visit the meadow. They didn't know her name, but they felt her presence in the quiet winds, in the soft petals, in the gentle hush of twilight. The meadow remained a place of stillness, a home for the weary, a cradle for gentle hearts, because sometimes the quietest journeys are the most meaningful ones, and even a tired butterfly can leave behind a peaceful world that lives on in silence. There once was a quiet riverbank where the water moved slowly and softly. The air was warm and still. Trees stood tall around the edge of the river, their leaves dancing in the wind. Tiny flowers grew along the grassy banks, and birds chirped in the distance. It was the kind of place where even the sun seemed to walk gently across the sky. Near this calm river lived a little butterfly named Bella. Her wings were soft lavender with silvery patterns that sparkled in sunlight. Bella was not like other butterflies that fluttered quickly from flower to flower. She enjoyed slow mornings and peaceful afternoons. She liked to sit quietly and feel the wind pass over her wings. One sunny day, Bella woke up feeling more tired than usual. Her wings felt heavy, and her eyes could barely stay open. She had been flying for many days, visiting gardens, exploring fields, and gliding through woods. Though she had seen many beautiful places, her body longed for rest. So, Bella flew gently toward the riverbank. The sound of the water whispering over smooth stones calmed her heart. She hovered for a moment, then settled on a soft leaf near the water's edge. The sun warmed her tiny body, and the soft breeze made her wings sway like petals. "I'll just sit here for a while," she said to herself, closing her eyes halfway. "Just a little rest." Bella sat quietly, listening to the sounds around her. Frogs croaked in the reeds. A dragonfly buzzed past, and fish splashed in the shallow water. Everything moved slowly, as if the world itself was sleepy. She leaned closer to a pink flower blooming beside her. Its petals were open wide, and its sweet scent filled the air. Bella climbed inside, curling up like a petal herself. The flower seemed to hug her gently, and the softness made her even more drowsy. As she drifted into rest, memories came to her like dreams. She remembered flying over golden fields, the way the wind had lifted her high into the sky. She remembered a quiet night in a garden filled with fireflies. She remembered the laughter of a child who had once pointed at her and smiled. In her dream, Bella floated above the river. Stars sparkled above her, and the moonlight lit up her wings. The trees whispered kind words, and the flowers sang soft lullabies. Everything was calm. Everything was still. When she opened her eyes again, the sun had moved across the sky. It was now late afternoon. Shadows stretched across the grass, and the air had cooled. Bella yawned, her tiny mouth opening wide. She stretched her wings gently, still feeling sleepy, but peaceful. A small voice called from nearby. It was a young beetle crawling along a rock. "Hello there," he said. "Are you okay?" Bella smiled softly. "I'm just resting. The wind feels nice here." The beetle nodded. "This is a good place to rest. I come here when I'm tired, too." They sat together in silence for a while. The beetle didn't ask her questions. He simply sat nearby, sharing the quiet moment. As the evening came closer, more small creatures arrived at the riverbank. A ladybug with sore legs, a tired caterpillar looking for a quiet spot, a moth who had flown too far and needed to stop. They all found their own peaceful places among the flowers, leaves, and warm stones. None of them spoke much. They didn't need to. The sound of the river, the soft wind, and the warmth of the setting sun said everything they needed to hear. Bella watched them and felt a soft joy in her heart. Even in silence, they were connected. Even in stillness, they felt close. The sky turned orange and pink. Birds flew across the horizon, heading home. The river reflected the soft colors like a mirror. Crickets began to sing as the stars peeked out above. Bella stayed close to her flower. She felt lighter, not because she had flown again, but because she had allowed herself to rest. Her body still felt tired, but her spirit felt calm. She looked up at the sky. "This is where I need to be," she whispered. That night, as the stars sparkled above the trees, Bella closed her eyes once more. She let go of all her worries. She didn't think about where she had been or where she should go next. She simply let the peaceful night wrap around her like a blanket. Dreams returned, soft, glowing, and quiet. She dreamed of floating on clouds, of lying in flower beds that swayed with music only she could hear. She dreamed of rivers made of light and winds that carried her gently from one calm place to another. The other creatures slept too. The riverbank became a cradle for all who needed comfort. No one hurried. No one worried. Time moved slowly. In the morning, soft golden light fell across the meadow. Birds began their songs again, and flowers reached up to greet the day. Bella opened her eyes. She felt rested, not only in her body, but in her heart. She fluttered her wings gently. They no longer felt heavy, but she didn't rush to leave. The riverbank had become more than a resting place. It had become her gentle home. Over the next few days, Bella stayed near the water. She helped other insects find peaceful spots. She showed a tired ant where the softest moss grew. She sat beside a snail who was scared of the wind and helped him stay calm. She didn't do much, really, just small things. But those little acts made the riverbank even more peaceful. It became a safe place, not just for her, but for everyone who needed a break from the world. Soon, creatures from nearby fields and gardens began to visit, not because they were lost, but because they had heard of the calm, the stillness, the safety by the river's edge. Bella didn't mind the company. She still enjoyed her quiet moments, still curled up in flowers, still let the breeze carry her into naps. But now, her rest had a new meaning. It was part of something bigger. The sleepy butterfly had become a quiet guardian of peace. She had come to rest. But in doing so, she had helped others rest too. And every time she closed her eyes, she felt the river's gentle hum, the flower's soft hug, the warm sun on her wings, and she knew she had found her place. Not every journey ends in noise or celebration. Some end in stillness, under the shade of trees, beside a kind river, where even the breeze knows how to whisper goodnight. In a quiet, open meadow where tall grass moved gently, a soft wind blew across the land. It wasn't loud or strong. It moved slowly, touching every leaf and petal as if saying hello. The sunlight was warm, but not hot. Everything around was still and peaceful. The world seemed to slow down, just for a little while. On one of the green leaves near a group of wildflowers, a tiny butterfly rested. Her wings were light blue with soft white dots. She was very tired after flying for many hours across hills, forests, and gardens. The journey had been long, and now her little body wanted a break. Her name was Lila. She was not in a hurry like other butterflies. She liked to notice small things: the scent of blossoms, the warmth of sunbeams, and the rhythm of gentle breezes. Lila believed in enjoying every moment, not just rushing from place to place. That day, the air was perfect. The sky above was wide and blue, with only a few clouds slowly drifting by. Birds flew far above, singing softly. Bees buzzed around. The flowers and crickets played their quiet tunes in the tall grass. Lila closed her eyes for a moment. She could feel the soft wind brushing her wings, like a kind hand stroking her back. She stayed still, letting the breeze pass over her. She didn't want to move. She only wanted to rest. She remembered the morning. She had woken up under a tree, stretched her wings, and flown high to greet the day. She had stopped by a cherry tree and visited tulips in a field. She had helped a baby ladybug find her way to her mother. Her morning had been full of tiny adventures, but now her wings felt heavy. "This feels like a good place to pause," she whispered to herself. The soft grass below swayed with the wind, making a quiet rustling sound. It was almost like a lullaby, calming and sweet. Lila snuggled into a small curved leaf, letting it support her tired body. The wind touched her face, wrapping her in comfort. Not far from her, a squirrel was slowly climbing down a tree, carrying a small acorn. He noticed Lila and smiled. "Long day?" he asked in a soft voice. "Yes," she replied gently. "I've been flying since sunrise. This wind is helping me rest." The squirrel nodded. "The wind here is always soft. That's why I nap under this tree every afternoon." Lila smiled back. It felt nice to be understood without saying much. As the day moved on, the shadows on the ground grew longer. A young turtle passed by, walking slowly across the meadow. "Are you okay, little butterfly?" he asked kindly. "I'm just resting," Lila answered. "The wind feels so gentle. I think I'll stay here for a while." The turtle agreed. "That's wise. Rest is important." He kept moving, slowly but steadily, while Lila watched him disappear into the grass. After some time, more animals came to the quiet field. A fawn with sleepy eyes lay down beside a rock. A group of ants rested under a leaf, their morning work done. Even the birds that usually chirped all day began to quiet down. Everyone seemed to feel the soft wind. Lila felt lucky to be there. She had found a spot that welcomed stillness. No one hurried her. No one asked her to move. She was free to be calm and quiet. The wind picked up just a little, enough to shake the flowers nearby. Lila opened her eyes and looked around. The petals moved like they were dancing. A butterfly beside her twirled slowly in the air, enjoying the breeze. Lila smiled, but she stayed where she was. Not all dances needed to be fast. Some were slow, like the movements of leaves, the drifting clouds, or the flight of a butterfly resting between journeys. A soft humming sound reached her ears. It was a hummingbird, small and shiny, hovering near a flower. "You're not flying?" the hummingbird asked. "Not today," Lila replied. "I'm letting the wind hold me instead." The hummingbird nodded thoughtfully. "I always fly fast, but sometimes I wish I could stop." "You can," Lila said gently. "There's no rule that says we must rush all the time." The hummingbird thought about it, then flew up to a branch and rested beside a blossom. The soft wind continued. It passed through the tall grass, made the trees whisper, and stirred the petals of every flower. It told stories in its own quiet way. Lila listened to those stories. She imagined the wind had traveled from far places, across oceans, over deserts, through valleys, and now it was here, singing to her. She began to drift into sleep. Her eyes closed slowly. Her breath became soft. In her dreams, she floated above a field of stars. She saw rivers of light, meadows that stretched into the sky, and soft hands of wind carrying her from flower to flower without any effort. In this dream, she didn't need to flap her wings. The breeze carried her kindly. It whispered sweet things that made her smile in her sleep. When the sun began to set, the colors in the sky changed. Orange, pink, and purple stretched across the horizon. Lila opened her eyes. Everything looked golden. Even the wind seemed to glow. She took a deep breath. The air smelled of evening, flowers, and cool soil. It was peaceful. Around her, animals were preparing for night. The fawn yawned and curled up near a bush. Birds settled on tree branches. Crickets started their night songs again. Lila looked up. "Thank you," she whispered to the wind. "You gave me rest. You gave me peace." She sat still for a while, longer, not ready to leave. Her wings felt stronger now, but her heart felt something more. She felt like she belonged to this quiet world, even just for a moment. The sky darkened. Stars appeared one by one. A soft glow surrounded the meadow. Fireflies blinked across the grass like tiny lanterns. Lila finally stood. She spread her wings and felt their strength return. But she didn't fly high. She stayed close to the ground, gliding low, letting the wind guide her. She found another leaf near the water's edge and curled up once again. She wasn't in a hurry. She didn't need to go far. This quiet place was enough. That night, as the world slowed down, Lila slept deeply. She didn't dream of far-off places. She dreamed of soft winds, kind animals, dancing flowers, and warm golden light. In the morning, she would fly again. But for now, she let herself be still. In a quiet meadow filled with wildflowers and tall grass, nature moved gently, as if everything knew it was time to rest. The sky above was bright, with soft clouds slowly passing by. The air carried the sweet smell of blossoms and the peaceful song of distant birds. Among the colorful petals of white, pink, and yellow flowers, one daisy stood taller than the rest. Its center was golden, and its white petals stretched out like rays of sunshine. On that daisy, a small butterfly had found the perfect place to rest. The butterfly's name was Nara. She had delicate wings with soft orange patterns and tiny black spots. Her body was light and fragile, but her spirit was strong and gentle. Nara was a butterfly who loved quiet spaces. Unlike others who flew quickly from flower to flower, she liked to pause, observe, and enjoy the beauty around her. That morning, she had traveled far. She fluttered over green fields, passed through blooming gardens, and followed the path of a sparkling stream. The wind had been kind, but her wings were tired. After hours of flight, she found herself in this peaceful meadow, drawn by the daisy's soft glow under the afternoon sun. She hovered over it for a moment, feeling the breeze on her wings. Then she slowly lowered herself onto the center of the flower. The daisy moved just slightly, welcoming her gently. Its warm center felt soft and safe, like a quiet bed made by nature itself. "This is where I'll stop for now," Nara whispered to herself. She closed her eyes and breathed deeply. The sweet scent of nearby lavender flowers filled the air. The gentle buzz of bees working nearby was like soft music in the background. The wind touched her wings with kindness, and the daisy rocked slightly with the movement of air. It was the kind of moment that makes time feel slower, calmer, and more meaningful. As Nara rested, other creatures of the meadow noticed her. A curious ladybug climbed up a nearby leaf and looked at the sleeping butterfly. A grasshopper paused on a blade of grass, watching silently. Even the dragonflies flying above moved more gently, as if they didn't want to disturb the stillness. "She's resting," whispered the ladybug. "She must have had a long journey," replied the grasshopper. No one made noise. Everyone understood the value of rest. Nara, still asleep, began to dream. In her dream, she flew through skies, painted with pink clouds. The trees below danced with golden leaves, and flowers opened their petals just for her. The wind lifted her with ease, and the world around her sparkled with calm light. In that dream, there was no hurry, no rush, only joy and stillness. Back in the real meadow, the day slowly turned to evening. The sun lowered, casting golden light across the field. The petals of the daisy shimmered, catching the last warmth of daylight. Nara stirred a little but didn't wake up. The warmth of the flower made her feel safe, like being held in a soft cradle. A small bird flew down from a tree and landed, gently on a nearby branch. He tilted his head and looked at the butterfly. "She's still sleeping?" he asked the grasshopper. "Yes," replied the insect softly. "She found peace here." The bird nodded. "This meadow has that effect. Even I rest here when I'm too tired to sing." As the sun slipped below the hills, stars began to appear. The sky turned a soft purple. Fireflies lit up the space between flowers, blinking like tiny lanterns. The wind grew cooler, but it still moved gently through the grass and petals. Nara finally opened her eyes. For a moment, she didn't move. She just looked up at the star-filled sky. She felt the soft rhythm of the daisy beneath her, the coolness of the evening air, and the deep quiet all around. She didn't feel the need to fly. She was in no rush. Her heart felt peaceful and her wings were calm. "It's evening now," she whispered. A soft voice answered. It was the daisy. "Yes, dear one. You've slept through the day. You needed it." "I feel better," Nara said. "Thank you for holding me." The daisy smiled with its petals. "You are always welcome." Nara looked around. The meadow glowed with soft light. The other flowers swayed in the breeze. Animals moved slowly, finding places to sleep. The whole world seemed to prepare for a quiet night. The butterfly stayed where she was. There was no need to move. The air was perfect. The stars above twinkled like dreams waiting to be explored. She closed her eyes again, not to sleep, but to simply feel the moment. In the distance, a gentle stream flowed. Its soft bubbling added music to the night. An owl hooted softly from a tree, and the grass rustled as a fox quietly walked past, careful not to step on any flowers. The world continued, but in soft sounds, soft light, and soft hearts. The butterfly didn't think about tomorrow. She didn't wonder where she would fly next. In that moment, resting on a flower, she had everything she needed: comfort, silence, and the gift of stillness. As night deepened, a layer of dew formed on leaves and petals. The daisy gently held Nara, wrapping her in the cool freshness of the night. Fireflies danced around her. A moth glided silently past, nodding politely. "Rest well, little one," it whispered. Nara smiled in the darkness. Her wings glowed faintly under the starlight. She didn't reply with words. Her peaceful breath was enough, and then she slept again. The meadow watched over her. The grass, the trees, the breeze, and the stars all guarded her sleep. No loud sound came. No strong wind blew. Everything remained quiet. Far away, the first hints of morning began to form. Not light yet, but a soft feeling in the air. The kind of feeling that says a new day is waiting. But for now, in the middle of the night, one small butterfly lay curled on a daisy, safe and still, dreaming of warm skies and quiet journeys. And nature held her in its arms, like a mother rocking her child. The evening arrived softly, like a lullaby whispered across the fields. The warm sun slowly disappeared behind the hills, painting the sky in beautiful colors, orange, pink, and soft purple. A quiet breeze moved through the tall grass, and the leaves on the trees rustled gently, creating a calming sound. Far from the city, in a quiet corner of nature, a peaceful meadow lay surrounded by trees and small bushes. This was a place where animals rested, flowers bloomed freely, and time seemed to move slower than anywhere else. In the middle of this meadow lived a small butterfly with bright blue wings. Her wings sparkled when the last light of the day touched them. Her name was Lena. Unlike other butterflies that flew around all day, Lena liked to explore slowly. She enjoyed the silence of nature, the calm wind, and the comfort of peaceful places. That day, Lena had wandered far from her favorite bush. She had followed the scent of blooming flowers, visited quiet ponds, and floated above waving grass. But as the sun lowered and the sky turned darker, she felt a little tired. Her wings had carried her through beautiful places, but now they longed for rest. Lena looked around for a place to settle. She noticed a smooth rock near a group of sleeping flowers. The rock still held the warmth of the sun, and the petals around it looked soft and welcoming. She slowly flew down and landed gently on the rock's surface. As she rested, Lena took a deep breath. The air smelled like fresh leaves, sweet blossoms, and a hint of earth. Everything around her was still and gentle. The trees stood tall but silent, the grass moved softly, and even the tiny bugs nearby walked without a sound. This is the perfect place for the night, she thought, folding her wings. Overhead, the sky became darker, and stars began to shine. One by one, they lit up the sky like tiny lamps. A few clouds drifted by, light as feathers, and far away, an owl called out softly. It was the kind of night when nature whispers instead of speaks. Lena stayed still. She didn't want to move. The quiet filled her heart with peace. She watched as fireflies danced between the blades of grass. Their little lights blinked slowly, creating a magical scene that looked like floating stars on Earth. In the distance, a stream flowed gently. Its sound was soft and smooth, like a peaceful song. The water moved over small stones, curving through the land. Lena closed her eyes for a moment, listening to that lovely sound. She wasn't lonely. Even though she was alone, she felt surrounded by comfort. The night didn't feel empty. It felt full of life, but in a gentle way. The rustle of the trees, the glow of the stars, and the quiet wind all felt like friends keeping her company. A sleepy squirrel peeked from its tree hollow, saw Lena resting, and smiled. A small brown mouse passed nearby, carrying a bit of food, and paused to admire the peaceful butterfly. All the creatures of the meadow seemed to understand the importance of rest. Lena opened her eyes again and looked up. The sky was now a deep, dark blue, with stars scattered like diamonds. One star, brighter than the rest, twinkled right above her. She made a small wish, not for something big, but for more nights like this. Peaceful, quiet, and full of wonder. The wind touched her wings softly. It wasn't cold, just cool enough to feel fresh. It carried with it the scent of night blossoms, opening in the darkness. Somewhere nearby, a hedgehog was curling up under a bush, ready to sleep. Lena smiled. "I love nights like this," she whispered. She thought about the day she had just lived, the butterflies she had seen, the petals she had landed on, the bees buzzing through the air. Every moment had been lovely, but this quiet part of the evening was her favorite. It was the time when everything slowed down, when no one was in a hurry, and when the world felt safe and soft. She stayed still on the warm rock, feeling its surface beneath her tiny feet. The earth beneath the stone felt strong, steady, and kind. It held her like a soft hand, cradling her gently. A little later, the moon began to rise above the trees. It wasn't bright, but it gave enough light to see the shapes of leaves, branches, and flowers. Lena looked around at the beauty of the night. The flowers now slept with their petals closed. The trees stood like quiet guardians. Even the wind moved slower. A small breeze passed through, carrying a leaf that twirled as it fell to the ground. Lena watched it land and thought, even the leaf knows how to rest. As the hours passed, Lena did not move. She felt no need to fly, no wish to explore. She simply enjoyed being there. Her wings were calm. Her heart was at peace. She remembered her mother's words from long ago. Sometimes, the most beautiful journeys happen when we stop and simply feel the world around us. Tonight was one of those times. She closed her eyes again and listened to the meadow. The stream still flowed, the wind still whispered, and the stars above twinkled silently. Everything felt right. Nothing was missing. Even though she was small, Lena felt big in that moment, like she belonged to the world, and the world belonged to her. She let herself drift into sleep. It came gently, like a soft blanket wrapping around her. Her breath became slow and easy. The rock stayed warm beneath her. The stars watched from above, and the fireflies blinked around her like tiny bedtime candles. All through the night, the meadow stayed quiet. No loud sounds, no sudden movements, only the soft rhythm of nature resting together. And Lena, the blue butterfly, slept through it all. When the first light of morning touched the horizon, the sky turned a soft pink. The air smelled fresh and new. Birds stretched their wings and began to chirp gentle songs. Dew formed on the petals and grass, sparkling like morning jewels. Lena slowly opened her eyes. She yawned, stretched her wings, and took a deep breath. The world was waking up, but her heart still held the calm of the night. She smiled, thankful for the peaceful rest. She flew gently into the morning sky, her wings catching the first sunlight, and the breeze greeted her like an old friend. She didn't rush. There was no need. The calm from the night would stay with her all day. And so, the blue butterfly rose into the air, light and joyful, carrying the peace of the quiet night wherever she went. The sun began to lower behind the hills, slowly wrapping the sky in warm colors. Shades of soft orange, light pink, and gentle. Lavender spread across the clouds. The day was coming to an end, and the meadow started to rest. Inside this calm meadow, among tall grass and colorful flowers, lived a very young butterfly. Her name was Lila. She was small, with light purple wings touched with tiny white spots that sparkled when she flew. She had only been flying for a short time. Every day felt like a new adventure. Lila had always slept close to her family. At night, she would rest under leaves next to her mother and siblings. Their soft wings made a cozy blanket. But tonight was different. For the first time, Lila had flown farther than usual. She followed the scent of sweet flowers, the sound of soft breezes, and the curiosity in her heart. Before she knew it, the sun had disappeared. The sky had turned dark blue, and stars slowly began to appear. Lila looked around and realized she couldn't see her family anymore. Her heart beat faster. She was alone. She fluttered gently, trying to remember the way back. But the grass looked the same everywhere, and the trees stood tall and quiet. Everything felt bigger now. She thought about flying higher to look around, but the wind had grown a little stronger, and her wings were starting to feel tired. Lila stopped on a flower petal and sighed. The petal swayed a little under her light weight. She looked up. Above her, stars blinked gently, like tiny lights winking from the sky. One bright star looked straight down at her. "Maybe it's not so scary," she whispered. She had never slept alone before. The night around her felt wide and full of unknown sounds. Crickets sang in the grass. Leaves moved softly in the breeze. A frog croaked in the distance. These were not scary sounds. They were part of the meadow. But without her family beside her, everything felt new and different. Lila folded her wings and tried to rest. The flower beneath her was soft and warm from the sunlight it had kept all day. It smelled like honey and morning dew. She took a deep breath and let the gentle scent calm her nerves. A ladybug crawled up a nearby stem. "Are you okay?" she asked kindly. "I think so," Lila said, her voice small. "I've never slept alone before." The ladybug smiled. "The first time is always the hardest, but look around. Nothing here wants to harm you. The meadow is a kind place. Let it sing you to sleep." Lila nodded. She felt a little braver now. She looked around again. Fireflies began to blink, lighting up the grass in tiny flashes. Their glow was soft and golden. They floated gently through the air, making the meadow look like a place from a dream. A soft wind brushed over her wings. It wasn't cold. It felt like a hug. The leaves swayed gently. The sky held more stars now, and their light was quiet and peaceful. Lila closed her eyes and listened. She didn't try to fly anymore. She didn't search for her family. Instead, she let herself feel the night. A nearby stream whispered as it moved over smooth stones. Owls called to one another from the trees, their voices low and calm. Even the smallest bugs moved softly across the grass. The whole world seemed to be saying, "It's okay. Rest now." As Lila stayed still, she remembered her mother's voice. "One day you will rest beneath the stars, all by yourself, and you'll learn that the night can be a friend too." That memory felt warm inside her heart. Maybe this was that moment. A moth passed by, slow and steady. "First night alone?" he asked gently. Lila nodded. "It gets easier," he said. "Just listen to the quiet. It tells stories." "What kind of stories?" she asked. "Stories of the grass growing," he answered, "of stars sharing their light, of flowers closing their petals after long days. The night is full of gentle tales, if you listen closely." Lila smiled. She liked that idea. She began to notice more things. The way a petal curled slowly, the sound of a falling leaf, the stillness of a resting ant beneath a blade of grass. These tiny details made the night feel alive, but in a soft, slow way. She rested her head on the petal and let her wings fold completely. Her breathing slowed. The worries in her heart began to fade. The stars above seemed to whisper their glow across the sky. They didn't need to speak loudly. Their quiet light said enough. "You are safe." Lila watched one star twinkle especially bright. She made a silent wish, not to be taken home, not for the night to end, but for courage. Courage to rest alone and wake up with strength. As she drifted closer to sleep, a soft drop of dew formed beside her. It shimmered like a jewel in the night. Everything around her sparkled, not with noise, but with calm. The flower cradled her gently. The wind slowed down even more. The fireflies danced less now, preparing for their own rest. Lila yawned, her eyes heavy. The night had wrapped her in its gentle arms. It no longer felt big and strange. It felt quiet and kind. She didn't notice when her eyes fully closed. She didn't hear the last breeze. She didn't feel the final touch of starlight. She was asleep, and while she slept, the meadow watched over her. The leaves kept still to not wake her. The owl flew silently above. Even the stream whispered more softly than before. Everything respected her sleep, knowing it was special. The first time a little butterfly found peace on her own. Time passed, slowly, sweetly. When the first light of dawn peeked over the hills, the world began to move again. The dew sparkled on every petal. The breeze returned with soft morning scents. Birds began to chirp gentle songs. Lila opened her eyes. She stretched her wings, blinking at the warm light of morning. The fear she had felt the night before was gone. She had done it. She had rested through the night all by herself. She felt proud, happy, and ready to fly again. She looked up and whispered, "Thank you, night." She rose into the air, light as a feather, and began to flap her wings slowly. She didn't rush. The morning felt just as peaceful as the night had been. She wanted to enjoy every second. The petals below waved gently. The fireflies now rested. The stars had gone, but the warmth of their memory stayed in her heart. Lila flew toward the direction of her home. The meadow looked bright and full of life again, but now it also looked familiar and kind. The baby butterfly had spent her first night alone, and she had found not only sleep, but also courage, peace, and the beauty of stillness.